All right, here we are for another Voice of All Things discussion. Typically starting to do this now regularly with the chapters. Whenever I get the time to, like to reach out to someone, someone I got a pleasure of meeting, talking to, and this week we got IMDKing, and I'm gonna let you guys know why in particular this is the chapter one, to hear this conversation, but whatever he has had to say about this chapter on his own channel, you should probably go check out, which you should do always. But yeah, IMDKing. I think since last time we talked, I think you broke 100,000 since.
I did.
Yeah, congrats.
I
on
believe
that.
So. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, look at that. The growth. Love to see the homies climbing the charts, climbing the YouTube mountain. How you been?
It's been good. Like you mentioned, hit 100K right before the year ended. The plaque is back there right in the corner.
Oh, I forgot about the
right there. Just to flex the physical award.
Oh man, see, all right, so like IMDKing has one of the nicest backgrounds, and so like obviously I couldn't copy that, but like one of my favorite things is his sign that he has. So like I had my wife like draw up a sign, but then he shows up with a 100K plaque. I'm like, damn. Now I'm sitting at
the shark. You got the little eye mask.
Oh yeah.
Some custom merch there. No, I dig it, man.
Yeah, it's not available yet. I haven't had the time to put it up, but it will be there soon.
Bet, bro. I'll cop one. I need pure darkness when I sleep.
Yeah, I mean,
got blackout curtains and an eye mask, so I'll cop one, bro.
A quick aside, a lot of people don't think it's necessary, but any light, even if it's like a alarm clock type of thing, even that your eyes are receiving that light, even that little bit of light can disturb your sleep. So
I'm right there with you, bro. I'm pure darkness when I sleep, and it's clutch when you like fly or something too.
Yeah, for sure. That's generally whenever I travel, those come in clutch, and definitely was difficult to catch some sleep with this chapter though. The things that came out, I don't know how people. There's a lot of conversations that are going to be had with this chapter. We're not going to talk. Like, the point of this conversation is more so like, we had our reactions, we made our own stuff, we analyzed it. Now it's like the synthesis. We're not gonna run through the chapter. We're just more discussing some of the things that came about it. And so the reason why I want to talk to Zach here is because I think that he's like, and I've said this before, if I were to choose a hockey sense for him, it'd be observation. He's like Mihawk or Shanks, whatever it is, in terms of like the scope of like what he's able to see when he analyzes something. It's whenever, like anytime I tuned into any kind of conversation, he's always brought up like some kind of detail that especially for the What If series, it's like there's things that you don't think are related, but they are, and he puts it out on the table. And the way I see it, outside of One Piece, it'd be like Lelouch from Code Geass or Light Yagami, like having like this chessboard. It may not like be like the manipulator. I think you're more of an observer in that regard.
Yeah.
And I feel
those are high standards you said it'd be too right there.
I mean, you got the YouTube plaque to flex about it. It didn't come from nowhere, right? So and like I think like this chapter and also the chapter that started the year. I forget what chapter it was. Was it 1071? I think 1072, something like that, right? Where I mean, it's no like secret. Oda's playing with the chessboard. He's playing like if we're playing checkers, he's playing like most people authors would be playing chess. He's playing some kind of like 9-dimensional chess with us.
Yeah, a lot of moving pieces.
Yeah, like on Wano and Onigashima, we already felt like, oh my god, there's so many factions. Like so many people thought there would be a third party coming in, and then Gear 5 came out. We didn't really need the third party at that point, but there was still like Aramaki showed up, right? Like, and then Shanks showed up. And in a lot of ways, when we started the year, again, I forgot what chapter it was, but it was the chapter where we got like Dragon Kid going to Elbaf, which we see again here. The way I see that is Oda's like showing us the chessboard, and now he's like, you know, it's like, where were all these pieces, right? When we saw Sabo at the reverie, and then we got the news about what happened there, that was another one of those, like, here's this side of the chessboard, and now we're seeing like where Elbaf, Winter's Island, Blackbeard, Shanks, we're starting to get an understanding of where the pieces are, and now we're getting an understanding of where Oda is taking those chess pieces to prepare us for the last saga, because technically we're still in the appetizer. I don't even know if the appetizers began yet, because when you really think about it, nothing like yes, Egghead's, the plot is there, it's moving, but like we haven't hit like a climactic part yet, right? Like the Gorosei guy is still not there. Kizaru is still not there. Lucci, a lot of Lucci and Kaku stuff, it was like tease, and then Stussy diffused it for a later on thing. And so again, I think right now it's a great time to talk to you about Oda's chessboard right here, and what Oda has planned for Egghead, and also the developments with Shanks. So, and before we get into that, I want to ask, you know, my viewers would be upset at me, but was there anything interesting? I don't know if you heard any rumors about my theories. One thing that a lot of people on my channel don't know is on your channel, your community crowned me the what was the thing, like the king of theories or something like that. The winner.
So yeah, we did a theory review on one stream where we were just looking at the most recent theories that were dropping, and like, you know, I had a couple lined up, and then people were dropping your theories, and then it started off harsh, man. Like I almost felt bad. I think they gave Preach like a very low rating for one of his theories.
What
I was
was
like,
the low rating called again?
It was. I think they gave him a kind of stinky. Okay, I'm pretty sure they gave Preach a kind of stinky, like off rip. I was like, all right, man, this might be a long stream. Dak Sake had a great. The Lafro Tail one, I think that only got like a solid or a damn good or something like that. Yeah. And then it just kept upping, and then you came in with the two theories. Rocks is a horse. Rocks is a rock. Like it's like and then, you know, of course it was a very skeptical chat, but then when we peeped the videos, they were like, okay, I could get behind the thoughts. I see where he's coming from, and you got the W in the end.
And that was crazy because like when people were telling you, I was worried. I was like, oh no, let's give him like a different theory. I don't want them to give me a kind of stinky. But that's the video that got shown, and then it got like off. It was like 70-80%, like whatever the highest tier was.
Yeah, absolute banger.
And I was just like, Rocks is a horse, is stronger, whatever. Like that was crazy. But and that, you know, truthfully, to be transparent with my own community, like that is a crazy one. Like if that were to happen, the amount of celebrations that would happen I would invite everybody to a physical location, because that's how crazy that one is. But that theory is adjacent to one that, you know, I debuted at the Reverie when Jay hosted it. And that theory, I don't know if you remember it, but it got some credence in this chapter. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, you're gonna have to fill me in a little bit.
So one of my main theories, and I stand by it every time Mihawk's brought up, I say Mihawk is a sword.
Oh yeah, no, I've heard the statement. I heard the statement before.
You might need to do a reaction to that video, because I recently posted a short, and obviously in shorts and TikToks you can't get all of the conversation.
Yeah, I'm sure you got so much flag. Is like, this guy is like, stop cooking.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's literally it on TikTok. I even showed my Discord community. I'm like, I was laughing, like it got to a point where I'd open up my phone and it instantly start smiling. My wife was like, what are you looking at? And then I was just like, I'm looking at hate comments. They're telling me to stop cooking right now. and it was the Mihawk. It was the chapter where Zoro said to the Seraphim S Hawk, he said like, there's less humanity, right, in you, or something like that. And the officials like double down on that context. And so I used that to give that video more views, which ended up happening. That video jumped 10K views, which it was dead at this point. And because I had like people were like, damn, this guy's cooking. And then I dropped Mihawk as a sword, and they're like, nah. The guy had me in the first half, but he lost in the second half. But then, like, the whole point of that video is that, like, Oda has been bringing us to all the concepts that are in the last saga, hockey being one of the main ones. We never saw hockey. It was invisible to us, but he dripped the concept to us and then gave it to us in a more full fashion. In that same way, sentient objects, which is a concept in Japan that you know has a unique twist to it, unlike many other places, but it's something that's common in fiction, especially Japanese fiction. It's also in the culture, and it's growing within the story. We see like things like weapons that are alive and things like that. And now I can say Mihawk is a sword is canon because of 1076, right? Because S-Hawk has the dice through, and he's actually a sword. So actually Mihawk is a sword. And it's just
that
like
is not an incorrect statement.
Yeah.
Theory confirmed.
Exactly.
Throw the party, bro.
Exactly.
Get everybody going.
And so that when I was off the call, I was saying that people were running to a video saying like, "Yo, 1076, that was the one."
Yeah.
And like I didn't know at the time because I just saw 1076 immediately shut down.
Yeah.
And even in my live reaction, I didn't even register it. I was like, wait, like. At first, like, I was like, wait, is this Seraphim using his leg? Like, what's happening here? And then they showed the dice. I was like, oh, he has oh, that makes so much sense. And then I look at my chat, and they're like, Mihawk is a sword. Mihawk is a sword. I was like, and I was like, oh my God. It's confirmed. It was the craziest thing ever. Like, I was trying, to me, I was like, you know what? I'm not biased here. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of people would immediately see it. No, I was trying not to see it. That's how hard it was, right? When Rox eventually shows up as stronger, I will be the last person to see it, but I was the first person to see it in the past. And like, so there was a few things that was a fun one. Maybe you should check that one out, but
definitely sounds like it's worth checking out, especially after this recent chapter. He's got another piece of evidence added.
Yeah. And like, so now, I mean, if Mihawk shows up as a sword, that'd be the craziest thing. I would still be mind blown, but like, obviously it'll feel like I'm going to have a stream of teching later on. And my plan was to hit him with all of the headlines, all of the Rox is a horse, like Mihawk is a sword, like hit him all and see how he reacts to them. But now the Mihawk is a sword one doesn't feel as crazy because 1076 like just kind of he's just gonna be like, oh, you mean you know what happened there? I'm like, no, that's not what I mean. But you know, in that context, we got a lot of other stuff in that chapter, which was like, I think one of the things that I want to ask you about is we had on my channel like a detective stream, right? Because Egghead murder mystery, to me it felt like a Detective Conan like arc essentially. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Detective Conan, but yeah, one of my favorites. And he talked to the author of Detective Conan last year. Interview, they're good friends, where Aoyama, the author of Detective Conan, was one of the few people who has known the ending of the series since like 20 years ago. And so I got that vibe. So I was like, you know what, let's throw a detective stream. And we predicted in 1074 that like the person who ran up on Pythagoras would live because his head would detach, and then also the Seraphims would be the one walking up on him. And we were like, at the time, like trying to figure out who the traitor was amongst the satellites. But 1076 comes around, and now I feel like it's not the satellites, and I'm curious what you think about based off of 1076. Like, we got the development of the 2 months from the CP5, 7, and 8 people stuck in there for 2 months, and it like some of those details made it feel like maybe a satellite isn't involved, or maybe there's more to it than just one person. Is it things combined? I'm like, so how did those pages reflect on you?
It's interesting that you said it makes you think it's not a satellite, because like I felt like, given that it's like something that we found out was involved on Egghead, I felt like it was probably more likely it might be a satellite. But to be honest with you, I actually haven't like put on my detective goggles too much on this
Mm-hmm.
because I kind of just let it ride a little bit.
Yeah.
And this chapter was really the first one where it got me a lot more invested because now we found out this is not just like, oh, hey, like, let's stop Vegapunk from like doing something. This has been something that's been happening for months now, that these CP agents are being trapped and literally starved. Right. So that adds a little more personality in a way to the trader, whoever they are. They are like pretty vicious. They'll literally starve these people. So like this is the first chapter where I'm like, oh, okay, this is now getting interesting, because before I wasn't as invested. I was like, okay, it's probably one of the satellites, whatever. People were making theories, maybe Shaka or Pythagoras, or maybe Stussy or Caribou. So I was like, the options are a little too widespread right now, and we just don't really have like a good feel. Now I'm like, I'm not quite like fully deep diving into all the details to figure it out, but I am starting to think like which one is making more sense. And we started to discuss that on stream for this chapter. One person that we did start to discuss a lot more, not even more so based off of evidence, but more so narrative, is York. Because York's role so far, just purely in terms of narrative, not even like looking at what she's been doing, to me, she almost gives off a Chondro vibe.
Okay.
Because Chondro, for me, at least personally, I think for a lot of people too, he was probably the worst Scabbard. Like the Scabbard with like the least amount of things going for them. Like
up until the reveal. Yeah.
Up until the reveal, right? Like imagine Chondro was just the Chondro that we knew during the raid on Onigashima. He would have been super boring, right? And then instead, he turns out to be the traitor and has this like really great backstory, and he becomes so much more interesting. York, I feel like, is kind of that for the satellites, because you have like Atlas and Lilith are like the two people that have a lot of personality, like they're easily drawn to. Shaka, Pythagoras, Edison, they're kind of like the brains of the operation that are really like working stuff. York, while it's like she's funny in that she literally just does the basic necessities for like everybody, if that's like her only thing, I feel like it gets dull really quickly. So it makes her suspicious in that sense, where it's like, is there more to her character here where she's like literally just like a bodily function Vegapunk, and that is her entire role? Or could this feel like similar to Chondro, where like he for the most part was like a comedic relief type of person, as like this painter with a painting devil fruit that actually couldn't draw, you know? So York was the one that I felt the most interesting based off of the discussion, but I actually haven't like dove too deep into like the details of all the little hints. So I'm actually interested to hear what you guys came away with during that detective stream, because I'm sure you guys found some little hints and clues that might be all interconnected.
Yeah. So it was fun. The context of the detective stream, I thought I was going into it with like few suspects, right? Like a primary suspect in the stream, and you could see like not the frustration. That's not the right word, but like I was sitting there like, wait a second. I didn't expect
getting countered.
Not the counter, but like then we started suspecting everybody. Because the way it felt like is if you looked at it, intensely on every single character, there was reasons for every single character. You just have to figure out like motive, alibi, those kinds of things. And those are things like ODA'S probably hiding for obvious reasons. It'll make it an obvious mystery, right? Like Edison, for example, one thing that we cleared down was like when the dome security went down, he was like missing. And like then we talked about like reference ties, like Edison and Tesla being important because obviously Stella's dream is what Nikola Tesla dreamed of. And so Edison betraying Stella would make a lot of sense because that's what happened in the real world. We talked about that context a lot. I have a video talking about that in the future. But Edison made a lot of sense. I've had my eyes on Edison for a while, but the main thing about Edison, and I'll talk about the other ones in a little bit, but Edison also, we found out in 1074, or not found out, but realized was the reason why we suspected the Seraphims was because they could have just been given an order that's the same order that Sentomaru gave the Mark IIIs. The order that he gave was that any cost, get Stella off of this island, right? And so regardless of how, like, the context of the Stella part, if you gave that order to like AIs at any cost, do this, right? They'll sacrifice anything as long as the main goal is done, then boom. And so then it's like, wait, then who is able to give that order? And we realized Edison was the last person to give an order to the Seraphims. And so ever since 1074, we've had our eyes on Edison, and then it got boosted because when York talked to S Snake, the Viz didn't highlight it. Obviously, they don't do this, but in TCB, they said that York was mimicking Edison. They were using Edison's like mannerisms, and so I was like, oh, that's like really interesting that got highlighted. Like Edison was the last one. This is what he did, and like the voice was even reverberated. And so we've been watching Edison, and the thing like Shaka, we didn't eliminate Lilith. Lilith was like, the way we saw it, the way I concluded at least, if Lilith ends up being the person, that's like the obvious one, right? Like you didn't need to put in thought.
It's like evil is the traitor. Oh my God, surprise.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas like, you know, Edison, we construed that like, or at least I did, was if he, you know, he's the inventor, right? So like if Egghead's a threat, then his inventions are at risk. So in order to protect his inventions, maybe he traded like people for that. Maybe he traded the overall like Stella and everyone else in order to protect his inventions. That's another way to look at it, right? Lilith being evil, boom, you get that. 1076, we find out the sea beasts were were part of the reasons why the CP0 was captured, and Lilith was the one who was commanding them. But at the same time, she said something interesting. When we were introduced, the sea beasts, they weren't under her control. They were acting on their own. And she said, I wonder if there's an error in the programming, which ties us back to what Pythagoras said in 1075. In 1075, Pythagoras is like, I wonder if he made a grave miscalculation, right? In terms of Pythagoras too, it's like him being targeted first, it was a little interesting. Like maybe that's the way to get the suspect off of him.
Exactly.
He has a way to survive it as well. There's a lot of context there. He's also a robot. Very interesting. Shaka, we kind of said if Shaka, we wouldn't be surprised if Shaka were involved. If he were the main person to do it, it'd be very, very interesting because he was isolated like with witnesses the entire time. So for him to do any of the things, he would need to be the accomplice rather than the main person. So we kind of treated Shaka as like an amplifier to another person, right? I think we came off of that stream 1074 with York and Atlas being the least likely people. But since then, York rose in suspicion. The reason why is because a lot of people were like, well, we found out that you could counter devil fruits. Like Law was able to undo the female fruit, right? And on Egghead, they're studying these devil fruits. Do they not have a counter to S-Snake? Does York not realize that like that's S-Snake's power? And so it lends itself to the idea like maybe she did that to eliminate their suspicion. They're not going to suspect someone who got turned into a statue. They're going to protect or leave or not worry about that, put it into a safe space, and then boom, they're going to come back and York's missing, and then boom, York is a suspect. But then
there you go. Yeah.
The narrative of York is also interesting because greed is like, I'm tired of sharing like everything. I'm tired of I want to be the main Vega Punk, right? Like you all are doing stuff and I'm sitting here eating and pooping for you, right? Like that's annoying. If York has any like capacity for thinking on their own, that I could easily see why they could turn that way. So again, like York is an interesting thing, and York is also interesting to me because the way back when we first got the satellite names, we tied them to the moon, right? Like I think it's Pythagoras, Edison, and Atlas are all craters on the moon. Lilith and Shaka are when the moon is full, it's referred to as a Shaka moon, I believe, and when it's like a new moon, it's referred to a Lilith moon. And obviously all of those refer back to what's it called, histories in people in history or mythology, but York is an outlier on both fronts. York doesn't really relate on to either of those, so even on the naming side, it could be York.
Stands out, yeah.
But Atlas is the one that like I want to throw at you because and I know
interesting.
Yeah,
because as you were talking about this, I was like, Atlas is the one I feel like has nothing really incriminating so far.
Yeah.
But let's hear what you got.
So,
you got on Atlas?
And this is why I'm enjoying this, because I feel like I'm giving you like the description of these pieces, and you're calculating it in with the AI you got in, right? And so Atlas. Okay, so I just made a short about this, but the thing about Atlas in 1075, I don't know if you caught the Viz translations, but in TCB and the previous translation, it was saying like I could change my body parts whenever I please. Like that's the future, right?
Yeah.
In the Viz, it actually says I can change my appearance however I want. I can look however I want. Which, like, in any murder mystery, if someone, you can't, like...
Yeah, exactly.
That's a suspect, right? And then, on top of that, when we were introduced to her, she showed us holograms. And holograms are an underutilized thing in Egghead. Like, I'm waiting for these holograms to become a plot point. But what she told us and what she demonstrated, she just, like, snap of a finger, boom, there's this, like, new person that Luffy was just like, wait, that's not a real person? And she's like, yeah, if you don't touch it, you would never think that it's not a real person. And so now there's like 2 points of evidence that tells us that she can look however she wants. This body that she's using, maybe it's a hologram. Unless you touch her with a light glove, you wouldn't, or without a light glove, then you wouldn't know. And like in my chat, people were saying like, hey, like if can a hologram wear the light gloves? Like, if they could be touched by it, why can't they wear it? And then that would allow them to interact with the world. I'm like, yo, that's kind of crazy if you think about it. But then you could also use holograms to disguise people. And so Atlas having that capacity is really suspect. But then on top of that, I was thinking about it like this, where it's like, there was 2 things, and I have to review one of them. But Atlas is also one of the satellites that we just give an alibi for because she was getting repaired, right?
Yes.
But then in 1075, she's like, that's not that big of a deal. I could just, like, we have organoids, we make it replace. So one, it wasn't that big of a deal. She made it sound like completely fine. But then it was also interesting because Lilith, I think, like, rushed her to the ER and was like, oh my God, it's a big deal. But then I was like, wait, it's not a big deal. The way she's talking about it, it's not a big deal, right? So that is one thing. Okay. This is the part that I was like, yo, hold on. Alice might be the sauce here. So later in the chapter, Vega, the Stella body says, what's it called? I'm baffled from the very beginning. This has all baffled me. The word of our research into poneglyphs leaking to the world government should be impossible, right? So now to circle back into the whole satellites thing and why I don't think the satellites are options at all at the moment. But I don't know if you've heard about the idea that the Punk records themselves, like, you know.
Yes.
Yeah.
People were mentioning like Space Odyssey and like AI going haywire.
Yeah. So that's why I'm leaning towards that, because these CP0, the Cypher Pole agents have been on Egghead for 2 months without any of the satellite's knowledges, without the Stella knowing, but then also this facility that seemingly Shaka wasn't aware of. Maybe they just don't have visuals, but like the whole concept of this facility existing, and then Vega Punk, the Stella body, he's fine, he's on Egghead, but he's not able to be tracked by Shaka, and that's like a very odd thing to me, because then you have to also say or admit that this is beyond 2 months of premeditation. This facility had to be built for this purpose of hiding it, right? To a certain extent. So the Punk Records aspect is interesting, and so that's why I'm like, the satellites are interesting. But here's the thing. For the world government to get word, right, like you were saying, like it had to be someone on Egghead. It had to be someone like the Vega Punks. And then I was digging on Atlas because of the whole what she said 1075, and I realized something. she's not, Atlas isn't just like a crater on the moon, right? Like when you think about the name, right? All these other people, Edison, Pythagoras, these are people.
Yeah.
Atlas is a Greek mythological person or entity. And Greek mythological stuff we tie to ancient weapons, but then also recently, because of the Roman connection, we tie to Saturn. And and possibly the rest of the gore say. So I'm like, Atlas's name is also interesting here, because it's not like the rest. This is the Greek Titan. It's not just some philosopher. It's not a mathematician. This is a Greek Titan. Wonder why Oda chose that name. And then I realized, I was like, wait a second. I don't remember Atlas as the crater of the moon. I remember Atlas as the moon of Saturn. So one of Saturn, the planet's moons, is actually Atlas. And
and the guy's here.
Yeah, the guy is coming. So now I'm like, yo, is it possible that, yes, she's a satellite for Vega Punk, but she's also a satellite, a moon for Saturn.
Okay.
Yeah, and so now it's funny because you were saying like Atlas is the satellite I suspect the least, but now with this information, what do you now that we talked,
that was actually, that I feel like with a lot of the connections that people tend to make is like, I don't look too much into them because there's just so much drawn. Like Oda's just like taken so much from like little bits and pieces all over the place.
Yeah.
But that one was probably the first one I was like, oh, okay. This idea that is like, she is just like a moon, a satellite to Saturn who's actually here. The fact that he's actually here makes it the most interesting. Man, like my question is though, like, where does this ultimately lead? What is the motive, right? Because like we could try to figure out who it is and like, you know, who's actually causing the damage, but like, what is the actual reasoning behind betraying? Are they leaking to the world government, but why at the same time would they be tying up these CP agents, right? So that seems like a conflict in motive. And then if I think about it from that perspective, is it potentially makes me think maybe the Punk Records is kind of just like going rogue, and then this doesn't really have like a clear path that is like working specifically with somebody.
Yes.
So I don't know. Now I'm like starting to think the Punk Records is like could be the way to go, because especially I forgot about it, but like during the last stream, people are bringing up like the Space Odyssey connection and how that could reflect the parallel with what the Punk Records actually is. And and I mean the danger of it was mentioned from the beginning, right? Of like just having all that source information in one place. And like I feel like anytime we talk about any kind of sci-fi with technology advancing, the danger is always like AI is just gonna take over, and it just becomes the enemy in the end. So yeah, man, Punk Records, that's starting to climb up to the top of the list. Atlas, definitely sussing is a lot more. Only like even if it's just purely off of the Atlas and Saturn connection. But man, this I was not really even too hooked into the trader thing for a while. I was just gonna let it ride. When it actually gets revealed, I'll be surprised. It'll be a good time. But like now the motives are getting really interesting. Yeah. Especially with how they're handling everything.
See, and this is exactly why, because the motives, right? You're looking at like, okay, cool. One of them is it. But when we get to that point, why? Why would that make any sense? And like the very valid points, like, okay, because of whoever leaked the word, Cypherpole came and investigated and was captured. And that would bring what? What would that do, right? That would, like, at the end of the day, right? If this, I guess, you know what I think? I don't know what I'm thinking about? Because if Vega Punk, Stella says it's impossible, right? That the word got leaked out, which means, and the Cypherpole people investigated, but did they say that they found anything? They didn't find anything incriminating, like in O'Hara, where they did investigate and they found something, right? I imagine Stella learned from that situation, understood like, hey, we can't do it in a way where they'll be able to see it. So they investigate, everything's fine. So maybe that wasn't enough. And so
it seems like I'm reading it now. It seems like specifically it says 2 months ago when we were meant to set sail after our inspection. So it looks like they already had done their work and then got caught afterwards.
Yeah.
Which is especially weird because like they're already leaving anyways. Why would you then like catch them again unless they found something?
Yeah.
But like then if you leak the information to them in the first place, are you just after Vegapunk? Like it's very conflicting. Could there be two conflicting sides maybe even?
So
maybe there's like a traitor to Vegapunk and then somebody working for the world government.
Yeah. So let me hit you with this. I think it might have been, right? Like, so naturally, Stella would avoid an overcome an investigation, right? If you were a Vegapunk, if you were Punk Records, you would know that. And in what would be the result of leaking the word? Well, they would suspect him, they would investigate, but if they came true, then they would buster call him. They would arrest him. They would send someone to assassinate him, like we're seeing right now. But knowing that Vegapunk is smarter than to be able to be captured by doofuses like this, right? Is full slander accepted, right? Send that one to Sai. But in order to escalate it, then you'd have to capture the CP0. So it might be that all of this is actually in the same line of, in order to get Vegapunk assassinated, you would leak the word, you would know that he would be able to avoid, transcend the allegations, as Jay would say it.
So they keep sending people, right? 7, 8, 5, 7, 8, eventually gets to CP0.
Yeah, and then CP0 would come, and now the question is, how smart is the whoever's planning this scheme? Because would they have been able to predict all of what's happening now at CP0? And the question might be, or the answer might be, yeah, because the dome security, that seemed to be planned. Like Shaka seems to corroborate that, yeah, whatever's happening feels like it's planned. Stella seems like everything has been planned. So could it be one of the separate satellites? That's odd to me, because what we learn of how they connect to Punk Records, right? Every day they're supposedly connecting Punk Records and they upload their information.
Yeah.
And the whole thing Stella said is like, that's a cool thing to everyone that has their experiences, and we share that. And if for 2 months or more than 2 months someone was just not uploading their thing, surely you would notice if you were that smart, right? But then on the flip side, right, like, here's the thing. It's like there's still the notion where, like, we don't know exactly how that process works. Can you choose what you upload? Like, is it like an opting in thing, or is it a full upload kind of thing? We don't know that yet. Yeah. But we don't know how Punk Records interacts with you, because at the same time as you uploading stuff, you're also downloading information, right? Because you're accessing the other people's information as well. So in that conversation, is it possible that the Punk Records is giving the satellites information,
manipulating their memory and stuff?
Yeah, and making them feel like they aren't an issue. They're all doing the right thing, and they're operating as if everybody else understands it as well. And so each person is getting a different prerogative, which allows a situation where it's like, yeah, maybe Edison brought down the security thing or whatever, like, I'm just throwing it out there, and then Atlas is the one who did this, Lilith is the one who did capture the people, but they all don't have the full picture. And Punk Records is not just going rogue, but also using it's like essentially the satellites as puppets, which is fully within the capabilities of what we know of Punk Records, in the scope of Punk Records, right? That's not even going into like Punk Records making holograms or making its own Vegapunk from the organoids. This is just, hey, like, they're connected. Why can't the Punk Records like feed them the wrong information? Isn't that the whole point of the story of like propaganda and like misinformation? Wouldn't it make sense if centralizing your information system could be corrupted in that way? So I guess, but then what you said, like, what would be the motive? Why would Punk Records be doing this, right? At this point, do you feel like you have a gauge on why Punk Records might be going rogue like that?
Ah, man. The motive is still a little tricky to figure out, but it does feel like, in terms of who can actually accomplish this, Punk Records feels like the answer, because individually, like, if we think about Vegapunk and everything that he's created, like, we hold him in such a high regard in terms of intelligence that it's just like, how could you get past Vegapunk himself.
Yeah.
Even if, like, if you're just 1/6 of him, right?
Yeah.
Like, how are you gonna, like, for months on end? The fact that he's been outplayed feels like it has to be a greater entity that is a collection of something that is even greater than he is.
Right.
So in that regard is really pointing to the Punk records. The question of motive, though. The idea that they want to get rid of Vegapunk, going off your son of logic, where they're just kind of manipulated this whole thing. Have they figured something out from the Void Century? Because they would have that knowledge as well, right?
True.
Everything that Vegapunk has studied with the O'Hara and everything like that, have they figured something out there that they want to take advantage of that maybe Vegapunk would not allow himself? Because we know he still has his own moral code to an extent. Maybe they know some sort of answer. Like, it could be trying to, like, the cliche thing is always with AI is like they want to take over the world and just like be the king themselves, right? So after having that history of like how the world government came to be for the most part, and like, I don't know, like they could create things like to the scale of ancient weapons and like whole bunch of stuff. But like, obviously Vegapunk is still the head guy right now. And I feel like maybe step one is to get rid of him. And then step two, they could kind of have like free control of like just expanding everything. Once the satellite is gone, they could become the satellite themselves. And now they have 6 Vegapunks for them to use themselves if they're able to actually manipulate them like that.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
maybe it's the plan is just get rid of the satellite. I will become the satellite, and now you could even make more Vegapunks if you wanted to, maybe.
No, yeah, I like what you said, because like the way I hold Egghead is that Egghead is our window into the Ancient Kingdom and what happened in the Void Century, because what we're seeing is this super advanced group, Vegapunk, reflecting on the Ancient Kingdom, is associating with Luffy, who's Joy Boy, who the Ancient Kingdom was also next to, and they were against the world government, which is what we're seeing right here. So every aspect of this thing is supposed to parallel what we understand of what happened 800 years ago. And you know, the question becomes, how did the Ancient Kingdom even fall if they're this powerful, right? Like, I started I think I told you off call with Brago, I got him to admit that, Vegapunk could essentially have successfully raided Kaido, as absurd as that sounds. Go listen to that conversation. But like, the point being is that the levels of the power of knowledge should not be undervalued here, and Vegapunk is demonstrating that. Now think about a source of knowledge that even Vegapunk himself says he can't reach, right? How do they fall? And falling because of your own creation seems like what we're understanding here. And so when you're saying like Punk Records, like going rogue, and these are the reasons why, that could be the reasons why Ancient Kingdom became evil in the first place, right? But then we also get the concept of like, does the AI, did the AI overcome and defeat itself for the greater good and become a part of the world government? Is that how Eam and the Gorosei have been operating because they had AI from the Ancient Kingdom? Is that how they're so knowledgeable about all of the world's like interactions, right? Like we even see in today's AI, like, you know, you type into ChatGPT or something and it's like telling you actual stuff, and you're like, yo, like you put in a scenario and it could probably predict it very, very accurately at this point. And you know, supercomputers aside, I imagine the Ancient Kingdom has some stuff like that, right? And so when we're saying like the Punk Records go rogue, it's so interesting to me, because there could be a good line of logic or it could be completely evil line of logic, and I think that's where we're kind of trying to like figure out, is it the AI evil or is the AI good and we're just wrong? And like you said, did they figure out the Void Century? Is it mirroring it, or is it like, yo, we can't do that again? Right now we're on the path of doing that again, and they're essentially Lelucia-ing Vegapunk on the world government's behalf, right? It's so wild. Like I think that's kind of like, that's kind of where my thoughts also stopped, right? Where like, what is the motive? and I wanted to get insight on you, and I think this is a good place to like pause real quick and just say, like, again, what I was saying at the beginning, Zach here is like the voice of reason. Like, I feel like these recent chapters, like, I am the type of person that goes into all the details, but then
you could really dive into it right now. Like, I feel like we are like maybe 2-3 chapters away from like you could really get a grasp on things.
Yeah.
Because right now you're just like, okay, maybe this, it's still like maybe this, you know?
Yeah. And so like me being here, I needed a voice of reason tell me I'm not crazy, and that like, yeah, this is sound reasoning. You're not too far off base. This makes sense, right? And I could trust you for that. And if you guys want more of those takes, definitely go check out Zach's channel. I mean, that's like the what ifs are one of the hardest things in my opinion, because you're taking the story, changing something, and making everything sound reasonable and panning it out, right? And so with that punk record conversation, I want to pocket that. We'll revisit in a weird way later on, because I have another angle that I came to that actually related to the latter half of 1076, and maybe it gives us more, takes away, or maybe gives us more clarity on the punk record side of things. But later in the chapter, we find out, to synthesize everything, Elbaf, shout us the Godfather Shanks theory. I don't know, that was why I was laughing, because our last message
was about that.
Yeah. And something I said in the Godfather Shanks video was that I was like, so to be transparent, I call it Godfather Shanks. The community likes to popularize Shanks the Groomer, which I don't think, like, they take it, and I know they get it, but like, I get that is what it means. But what I was saying was essentially, like, I said I wouldn't be surprised if, like Shanks had Luffy on Dawn Island and Windmill Village, like that scenario, I wouldn't be surprised if we see around the world Shanks has other versions of Luffy, and then
this is exactly what happened. We see, not just Luffy, Maki too.
Yeah, we see Maki 2.0 and Luffy 2.0, but then I was sitting there like, no, this isn't 2.0. This could be 36.0. This could be like, how do we know that this is the last or middle? We don't know what number kid this is, that in terms of the groom, it's not like Shanks is saying that like, oh, you have to know. Shanks is just passively being really cool, and then everybody just loves him and then aspires to be like him, right? That's the Shanks effect. It's not him being like, oh, you gotta be like me, you gotta be cool. He's just walking around and exuding the dopest energy in all of One Piece, right? And we see that, right? Like the Makino 2.0 or 36.0 is just swooning over him, and he's just like just took a swig out of the giant sake cup. Like, he's not
throws
doing
it down.
Yeah, he's not.
At the end of the chapter, girls are pouncing all over him.
Yeah, like if you and me sat back with a giant sake cup, we're not pulling girls like that.
No, it's not gonna hit the same.
Yeah, but Shanks is doing it, right? And so like that, the Godfather Shanks theory like had a lot of things that people want me to have a part 2, which I'm gonna try and squeeze out in this break week. And then we see Kid and him showing up to Elbaf, which we already saw him going towards, and we talked about it a little bit at the Reverie, but you weren't there at the Reverie, and I asked the question at the Reverie towards the end, and I was interested because I'm not a Kid hater, and I don't think you're a hater of any character, which is why I need your opinion here, right? I asked at the Reverie, given not a sane person, but a realistic perspective of One Piece, Wano, like end of Wano and prior, it's fair to say that Kid's portrayal wasn't the best, right? Like the way he was demonstrated, like you could break down the panels, look at the pixels, see all the powers, right? Yeah, he's really strong, but you can't sit back and tell me that like, yeah, Kid got displayed the same way as Luffy in Onigashima in a lot of ways, and Law might have looked better. Maybe that's bias, whatever, right? And so my question was, is Elbaf going to be the time where Oda flips the script and gives Kid a positive portrayal and shows us why he was put above Luffy at Sabo Odi, and is a contender for Pirate King or rival to Luffy. And I was surprised because, you know, a lot of people, most people obviously were like, no, it's going to be say much the same, right? A lot of people, or two, primarily Hidden Island, he you know, admirably, Cape was the lawyer for Kid and was saying, no, he's going to show a different side of Kid and Kid's going to finally come out. And the funniest part about all that conversation, because all we had by that reverie was the chapter where Kid goes, Elbaf, and he's sitting on his ship.
Yeah.
And everybody kind of forgot the Shanks connection, and they're just like, oh yeah, Kid's gonna roll up on the Giants, beat their asses, and like it was a question of Kid versus the Giants. Can he beat the Giants? Will he take over the Giants? And it's like the last time we saw Giants in a full capacity was Baby Big Mom beating down on Chief Giants, and then we're like, maybe they're not that big of a deal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we have this chapter where Kid rolls up and Shanks is waiting there. And I almost want to ask all those people again if they have the same perspective. And I want to know from you, what is Oda planning with Kid? Given the last few pages, like what do you see later on for Kid?
Man, I think the thing with Kid is like he's been inconsistent in this story, which is why I think a lot of people are like, he's not going to have his moment in Elbaf because they don't want to be let down at this point. You know what? They don't really want to expect anything because every time they do, just nothing really happens. With Kid, Elbaf, like I've been saying this for a while with Kid. I don't even care so much about his powers because Luffy he's just clear, right? Like he's like the number one pirate rival for Luffy is going to end up being Blackbeard. Use this Kid, he's still going to compete and everything, but it's going to be Blackbeard there next to him. So as far as Kid's powers go, like I've just kind of accepted like he's a level below Luffy. I'm not really looking forward to him as like he needs to be that rival.
Yeah. Okay.
I think what Elbaf has to accomplish is to bring back Eustace Kid's personality. Like I feel like that was the biggest miss in Wano for Eustace Kid was actually not like him not showcasing power. I was incredibly disappointed by the portrayal of what type of person he was. Because if you think about like, there's two things we learned about him in Sabaody, right? Number one, he has a higher bounty than Luffy, which is crazy after we saw Enies Lobby and all that kind of stuff. It's like, oh my God, somebody has a higher bounty than Luffy. But then we get the other story, which is like, this guy is an absolute menace. He's slaughtering civilians. He doesn't care, right? Then we go to Wano. We get a situation where Kaido absolutely demolishes Kid. Killer goes through a trauma, okay? Is fed the Smile Devil Fruit. Then we get to Roof Piece, and Kid says, you know what? I'm going to go take Big Bomb, man. All right? I'm going to go take Big Bomb. Listen, Luffy, you got this. All right, so that was number one. It was like, okay, I guess you just forgot about that. And then number two, by the end of Wano, Apu's just chilling there, telling him about the newspapers. It's like, what happened? You had one punk rotten, and like that was enough for the entire betrayal that led to your demise in Wano. You know what I'm saying? So like, and then by the end of it, like obviously he started to have this like more friendly relationship with Luffy, and like they have that goofy panel where like he's like hugging him and stuff. Like that was fine, whatever. But like Elbaf, I feel like even if Kid is not getting the massive W, like I don't expect him to beat Shanks here, obviously, but I want to see that like where's that like the evil side that we don't get from like Law. Law at his heart, he'll give you the cold shoulder, but he's still a good guy at the end of the day.
Right.
Uses Kid, like he's starting to become more friendly. But like what is his mission, right? Law has his own thing. He wants to figure out Willa D. Kid still wants to be the Pirate King. If that's his goal, he should have no friends in this game, like for real. Law will say like, hey, we're not allies anymore, but like he'll still be friends with Luffy. Exactly. But like Kid, he should be like really like I want to like, even if he doesn't win by the end of Elbaf, like doesn't gain anything, I want to see him like not care about like civilians and like really just doing everything he can to get the upper hand when we actually get to that arc. I just want Eustace Kids, like, give us a reason to really care about him. Like, because right now it's like, we don't know like he doesn't have a story that we connect to. It was just thrown into an SBS. Like he keeps talking all this talk about I'm gonna be a rival, but his powers don't stack up. And then like his personality of being this like absolute menace is gone now. Like he just seems like he's backing down in some of these situations. So like give us one of those things. If it's not power, if it's not the backstory, at least bring us the personality back. So like I just need one of those things to hit for Kid. I feel like given that he's gonna be in this massive arc, there's a lot of things that's gonna be happening. I just need one of those things to happen, and I think Oda will deliver.
Yeah, no, okay, so the personality thing is a great one because I actually have an idea that would bring that out. So like you mentioned it, the SBS. So when the SBS, right? And for those of you guys who may be not aware, I actually found this out recently, even amongst our viewers, not our viewers per se, but like the viewers who are adjacent, sometimes they tune in, but they're not always here. They don't read the SBS. They don't, sometimes some people don't even know about it, but prior is volume 104, I think SBS is
something like that. The last one.
Yeah, the last one. They gave kids Killer's Heat and Wire's backstory about how, which also, by the way, in Godfather Shanks, that video, it kind of like there's one part of it that the context is twisted, but you couldn't really like predict that, but like it was close. I think some of it could still be possible. A few people have responded to it and were like, yeah, that part wasn't right, but this could still be true. But, you know, that aside, right? When the SBS came out, when you get a backstory for a main character outside of the story, many people, especially the Kid fans, were like, wait, what? Like, is he not an important character anymore? Does this mean that he's gonna... we're just fizzle out of the story? Is he just gonna die? The die one was interesting because even I was like, I don't see the die one. I feel like that just tells me that maybe he's less of an important character, or Kid's gonna be really relevant very soon. And then we got like the law, with the law context, we're seeing much of the parallel, right? Like Blackbeard and Yonko taking on one of the people who didn't become a Yonko but came out of Onigashima, and then Shanks Kid, right? And so you already said you don't see Kid winning, right? Shanks wins in 100% of the scenarios the AI is spitting out, right? Yeah. Kid dying. How many scenarios you see Kid dying and leaving the story here? Because people believe Law is dead. A lot of people still, I don't know.
That's wild.
You don't think Law is dead? All right, cool.
No, I don't think anybody's dying off. The only person that died off screen was Absalom, and he's literally an invisible character. So like,
we could have seen him. Like he could have been on screen too. We just didn't see him.
We haven't seen him. Yeah, true. Some of the top 5 most popular characters you gotta just kill off screen. Like that's not happening. That's crazy to me. Like death in One Piece obviously doesn't happen too often.
Right.
I don't know. Like Yuzu's Kid dying, like it would be an absolute tragedy because of what the community would put his character through if he just died. There would be not an ounce of like sentiment like I don't think like what general, because like narratively you're setting him up. Even if you wanted to, because a lot of people were like, went this route for a while. It's like, hey, maybe Kid is like the foil of Luffy, right? He's the guy that couldn't do it. He gets defeated by Kaido.
Yeah.
But like at the same time, like we haven't spent really enough time to feel his pain or anything, you know? Like we got a little bit of a, like, if anything, I'm more connected to Killer's character than Kid. Like, that's why during Wano, I was talking about, I was like, if we're gonna, like, for a while, I was like, hey, maybe Killer dies here, and that's like how you push Kid up, because now you go through an emotional moment with him, get more of his backstory. Obviously, that happened. That went into the SBS.
Right.
But Kid, I didn't see like dying, because like at that point, we don't know his story. Like his story, a lot of people still don't know his story. Like you said, they didn't read the SBS, so I don't really see a scenario where his death would make sense narratively to generate the emotion that you're looking for. And the only emotion it would generate would be like just absolute a whole week of roasting.
Bro, no, I said it. I said this chapter, Oda had an agenda. He wanted us like break week, leaving us on this. He wants us to like, even if Kid's not dying, his reputation was already in the dirt. Now it's 6 feet under. We resurrecting it for this week to murder it again. Like this break week, I'm going to be tuning in to hear what people are saying, because it's going to be brutal, and I don't blame them, because it's like the Kid thing. You said a really good thing about Killer, right? The storyline of Kid being motivated because people were making fun of his laugh, and all Killer can do now is laugh. That was great. So tough, and then it connected you on a tier that was like unbelievable, and then I thought that was the
moment right there. I was like, give us the story now. Tell us how they grew up. Give us the connection that those two had. That's it. And we didn't get it.
Yeah, we didn't. And but the thing is, you this is good, because then I was thinking like, wait, you're right. Killer is the focal point. Oda did make us care about Killer. A lot of people think Killer is the captain. Yeah. And then I was also thinking about how funny it is, like the Apu point, right? Because Hawkins was also in that the alliance that Kid was trying to make, right? He defected to Kaido, but they weren't angry because Apu was the traitor, right? He's the one who sold them out. Hawkins didn't bring Kaido there. Apu probably did. And but yet Hawkins ended up dying to Killer, which is ironic, because Kid should have slaughtered Apu. I would have been the happiest dude. I would have Apu is one of those characters. I get it, he's a real pirate like Blackbeard, whatever. Apu just kind of just rubs me the wrong way. Nail on chalkboard. I just man, that dude's crazy. But back to the thing. So Kid's not dying. Shanks is winning. Yet we end the chapter with this understanding of, if Kid doesn't give the poneglyphs and leave, he fights Shanks. Last time they fought, apparently Kid didn't even see Shanks, which is I said that in the Godfather Shanks video. I was like to all the people who are caping for Kid, just keep in mind, he could have lost the arm to the monkey for all we know, because it said red-haired
monster
pirates.
Came through, snatched that.
At the time, that's all it said red-haired pirates. It didn't say Shanks. So I'm like, yo, Shanks didn't do
Rockstar came in.
Yes, that was some of the comments were saying like, no way you said Rockstar. I'm like, I didn't, but now I like that. And like the thing is, right, like even in this chapter, Oda did something even dirtier than that, where it's like, Ben Beckman was highly alluded to, or however you want to say it, like we think that Ben Beckman probably took the arm, but the thing is, we don't even know if Ben Beckman took the arm or he's the reason why he lost the arm. Ben Beckman could have ordered it, right? But the biggest slap in the face was Kid didn't even see Shanks. Like, he doesn't even know like what he looks like outside of a newspaper. Like, he doesn't. And like, man, so
that's tough.
It's rough, right? But like you said, right, we need Kid's personality. We need Kid to show out, right? And right now, he's not even on the island. Shanks is sitting there drinking. He didn't even know about Kid. He was about to leave until Rockstar came in and like, hey boss, like, there's that annoying guy again.
I love the fact that Rockstar is just a messenger. It's like, hey, go to Whitebeard, tell him this. Go to use this kid.
And Rockstar wanted to go back to Whitebeard and fight him too. He's just like, you ripped my captain's letter, and then he told Shanks like, you want me to mess him up? I'm like, no, Rockstar, please. No, we need you to come back here and give Shanks this message from Kid. But like, Kid's off of the island. I pray to God, bro. I'm not a Kid fan. I'm not a Kid hater. I like Kid's power. I like what he stands for. I just like characters in One Piece. But I pray that he makes it to the island, right? Like, do you think he makes it to the island?
Even if he loses, he's gonna end up on the island. I think.
I hope.
Because like, I feel like what we could lead to here, because now we're starting to see Shanks' motivations come through a little more, right? When he said, I'm going after One Piece. Now we're seeing, he wants the road poneglyph. My perspective on that has always been Shanks wants to be real competition to Luffy as a fellow pirate, kind of what we saw from like Roger and Whitebeard, where they're not like at each other's throats trying to kill each other, but they're still going at it for like 3 days and 3 nights, right? So like, that I see that as his own way of supporting Luffy, where he's like, hey, if you're a Yonko now, you got to be able to step up to me while I'm like going on out, and you got to be able to surpass me, which he said that when he gave him the straw hat. So I think what could happen here is that Shanks wins this battle. He takes the road poneglyphs. Kid, for the moment, is kind of just sent off into Elbaf. He starts his own storyline.
Okay.
Eventually, obviously, the Straw Hats have to arrive. I think that's going to be a clash. I think like the Red Hair Pirates and the Straw Hats, obviously, eventually, they're going to get down and like have a party and talk. But initially, those are two Yonko crews. And I think clearly if Shanks and Luffy, they're gonna duke it out, whether that leads to a Davy back fight or whatever. Some sort of clash is gonna happen there. Kid now has to be the third party that try to make his way into that fight and be relevant. And I just hope that he's not just like thrown in there and then they just Kagurasagi clash. He just gets blown off to the side like that kind. I hope he actually is able to make an impact and make his presence felt. That's all you really need from him there. He doesn't have to win that battle. Just walk away with earning the respect of the other two. You know what I'm saying?
Right. So and that's where it's interesting because Kid is a violent dude. We are expecting violence from this guy. We almost want it, right?
Yeah.
And so So, I mean, I proposed this to people and they were like, absolutely no. But like, kid could U-turn, right? Like he could just be like, all right, Shanks is there. Like, I don't need, like, let's go this way, right? Like that's not possible though, right? You don't see that happening. There's no way.
No.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
Especially with this last line. Can you imagine? Only if I lose. I won't lose because I'm running away.
Right? So then it's like we know Kid's gonna smack into a wall, even if he sees it miles away. He'll run into it, hoping that he'll break it. And like it got to a point where it's like Luffy punches Kaido, and he's like, "Wait, you could hit him and hurt him?" Like I kept doing that and didn't do shit. And so it's, it's funny, but like what I see right now, right? Shanks is on the island. He's employing the giants, which I think is overkill. I'm curious. Like, obviously, I don't know how strong Dory and Brogy are going to be, but like, they're not killer Kid level. That'd be disrespectful if that was the case.
No.
But we have the youngsters and we have Shanks's fleet. In order for Kid to show out, like you're saying, the personality, without it hurting Shanks's reputation, what I do see is something that we don't know of Kid is his ship. Like, we've never seen Kid on his territory, right? We've seen Law, he's a submarine and that has special capabilities. We've seen Kid out of his element, right? On Onigashima, he technically was, because what he said was like, I needed to collect all the scraps around the island to prepare for these fights, which was, a detriment to his capabilities, whatever. I mean, there's also a bunch of swords that he could just magnetize and bolt down, and then boom, like a half of the beast pirates are just like weaponless. But, that aside, I'm almost expecting, right? Like, there's no way he can't make it to the island, and something would be crazy if he just like railgunned the fleet. And I could see that. He just wipes out the fleet, and that is his like, oh, like this man just took out 50 ships or something like that. And this is Shanks' fleet. And these are not no-name pirates, all right? Like, I think that is a good way to give Kid that notoriety. He shows up, Shanks wins, right? You said something interesting there, too, where afterwards, Kid gets sent off, right? So implying that he loses the poneglyphs, but then Shanks just leaves him there, right? I want to know what you mean, like, the context of that. Like, what does that look like? What happens when Kid and Shanks meet, and what results in, because they said like, Killer's expecting the life to be lost, right? Like, do you see, what exactly do you see for that to happen? For Kid to be alive, sent on Elbaf, Shanks to take his poneglyphs and leave without any repercussions outside of just the poneglyphs.
Right. Maybe the poneglyph doesn't get taken. I could see it in a situation where you say there's got to be something that Kid does to earn the respect off rip, right? Like we even saw it from Law. Maybe we'll even see it from like next chapter. I don't think we'll see it, but like Law actually dealt damage to Blackbeard despite being severely like he put in the work, right? So Kid here could be just absolutely wiping the fleet. That brings the personality back a little bit, gives him a little bit of a power feat. Maybe he scars Lucky Roo, does something like that, put some damage on one of the commanders. It could be the situation where they clash head to head, and then Kid and Killer, they kind of, I feel like at this point they know there are battles that they can't win, and maybe they come back to it.
Yeah.
So like, could be a situation where they're going head to head and they realize, okay, this is not really working out for us. Let's regroup, go into Elbaf, find our own place to settle down, figure out the situation on this island a little more, and then figure out how we can take advantage later. Mm-hmm. Something like that. So maybe he doesn't lose the road poneglyph right away.
Yeah.
I was only thinking that because I really want this Davy back fight to happen between the Straws. So like, you could put all the road poneglyphs on the line, especially if the Shanks has the last one, because we still don't know where that one is. Obviously, the Straw Hat is a good option too. A lot of people always bring that up. So like, I feel like, yeah, it's got to be like some sort of respect being earned, and then he is able to kind of go off in his own adventure to kind of settle into Elbaf. Like, I'm sure he's going to be one of the characters that we follow a little bit to see what he's up to, give us some different perspective of the island. And then eventually he works his way back into the story somehow.
Yeah. I was going to say something, and I'm still going to say it, but then I realized, like, it's not really relative, because something that's crazy is, we talked earlier about how Killer almost feels more important. I actually have a short that talks about, viewers, brace yourself. I was saying that we don't know what's underneath Killer's mask, right?
I've been saying that for so long.
Right. And so
the bandages. Yeah. That's a story.
even without the mask.
Exactly.
We had the bandages. Even when Oda drew them as kids, we covered the face. That's why a lot of people think third eye triber. Maybe that's how he's able to read the poneglyphs, whatever, right? That mask thing is important. That's almost, to me, like, Oda would not throw away a mystery like that, right? So what I was going to propose, and I'll tell you why I don't like it also in a second, but I was almost thinking, like, the only way I see Kid coming out of, like, this alive, broken, and coming back stronger, and it would be crazy because it would be a crazy cool parallel to Luffy and Zoro, is if Kid lost Killer and Killer died, and then he would have a hockey
from Shanks,
from one of them. I don't know, but I would imagine he died of Ben Beckman or Shanks, right? But like, if the life, like, if Killer took a blow, right, then that would, in view, like, that's exactly what people wanted of Kid, of a hockey bloom, right? That's exactly the recipe for it. And I see that, and I can, that would be the way to, like Shanks would be like, like in chapter 1, he's like, if you're willing to fight, you gotta put your life on the line. This is what it means to fight. If you had the option to give me the poneglyph, you wanted to fight, this is the ramifications of it. And if the case is Killer shows out his personality of being violent and takes out the youngsters, then Shanks is gonna, have to hit something back, right? And Killer being the one to die, maybe not. Maybe it's another crewmate. We don't, like, obviously from the backstory, from Kid's backstory, we know that Heat and Wire are just on the same tier of Killer in terms of relationship, just not strength and focus in the story, right? And so are the other pirates on the thing. They all are named now, essentially, and they're all from the same place. So the reason why I don't like not the Shiki, I just spoiled it, but the Kid thing is because when so again, brace yourself, guys. The Killer thing was that if you were to look at Killer and just eliminate the mask, look at his lips, wonder why Oda hid. His hair matches Shiki.
Okay.
He has the same, like, goatee.
Okay.
And the cloning thing was the crazier one, where it's like, well, if the Mads pirates, right, we got Weevil, who's maybe Whitebeard, maybe Kaido, maybe all of them, maybe even Shiki, because he also has the same hair too, right? And, like, Stussy seemingly be the connection, and she had the clone, or, like, she somehow gave them the DNA, then it'd be interesting if Shiki was also cloned. But that's a whole separate thing, because I don't want to go into that in this conversation, because I have a future video that the cloning thing doesn't even have to be the thing. I'll just spoil it right here in this conversation for your viewers and mine. I think the more probable thing is, how, like, Luffy has connections to Rogers pirates, right? Like, Shanks was there. That's his first enemy was Buggy, Rogers pirate. Crocus was the entry into the Grand Line, blah, blah, blah. And then Rayleigh, mentor, right?
Yeah. course.
It wouldn't be too crazy to think that the kid pirates, being the parallel to Luffy, they interacted with the Rocks pirates, and we know that like Wang Zhi was on Pirate Island. Like they're like Captain John didn't die immediately; he died later on in the story, and then Moria got him, right? And so I was thinking like, wait, it very possible that like the Rocks pirate remnants, which we know existed, interacted with the kids pirates in the same way that that Roger's pirate crew interacted with Luffy. It's not a direct connection, but there is a loose connection. So, and then that led me to like, wait, Killer doesn't need to be Shiki's clone. He could just be Shiki's kid, and the timeline would match up. Even
does it?
Yeah, because even if you like, Shiki's still alive even without Strong World, right? Like, so he's alive there, and so he like he could have had a kid. Like, we don't know about that. We don't know a lot about the Rocks pirates. Maybe we'll find out through Wang Zhi, but then that that's a whole separate video that I'll talk about later. The thing that the Davy Back fight, I actually have a video about that where
got a lot of videos coming up, bro.
No, this one's already posted because the Davy Back fight between Luffy and Shanks, right? The popular thought, and my opinion, it's about the Straw Hat, because that's other than becoming the Pirate King, the reason like Luffy's other mission is to return the Straw Hat, but you can't give up the Straw Hat, right? Like you can't, because
exactly
the Straw Hat pirates.
Straw Hat Luffy,
yeah, and so like what he's gonna give it back, and Shanks is like, no, you have it, no. But like the thing is, that hat symbolizes like the will that Shanks wanted to pass on. And so Shanks, at that time when Luffy's a true pirate, right? That's why he didn't go to Wano. He's going to assess Luffy. Are you worthy of this hat, right? And they have a Davy Back fight. But the thing about the Davy Back fight is a lot of people say Davy Back fight, but they forgot the context of Davy Back fight. The context of the Davy Back fight, which I just talked about in my Fraud Valley video, saying that God Valley and Rocks is a sham, which might interest you too. I'm just realizing we need to have like a stream where you just react.
We'll just watch all the videos, bro.
Because they're just like I feel like they're so funny for you to go at, because you're super like, you don't let bias, you just like look at it as it is. And then like for the Rocks one, your Rocks is stronger one. You sat there and like, I can't counter this. Like, this isn't counterable. But like, is it gonna happen? I don't know. But like, the fact that I can't counter it's kind of concerning. Like, so we'll plan out that. Let us know in the comments if you guys would want Zach here to react to some of them, or
that could be fun.
Yeah, which one to react to, but. In the context of the Davy Back fight, one of the first lines is, that's the way sailors get the best sailors on their crew. And so a lot of people have been talking about Carrot, Yamato, next Nakama, and even Vega Punk. In that video, I was saying Shanks might be the next crew.
Becomes Straw Hat.
And not just, it's the craziest part. The reason why I made that video is because in the last 30 volumes, in the introduction pages, how it has the like Beast Pirates, the Straw Hat crew, it sets up who's in the volume, right?
Yeah.
In every single volume, all 105, Shanks is always in that character thing, regardless if he ever shows up. But in the last 30 volumes, Shanks has been listed underneath the Straw Hat crew every single volume.
Oh.
Yeah, and it's ever since volume 75. And so like when someone showed me one, and I was like, man, it's just one volume. And I checked I checked every single volume in the last 30. I was like, no. Oda's just been telling us this entire time. And Oda uses that. So like when Sanji was in Whole Cake Island, he put Sanji on Germa's side, and he had him fading on the Straw Hat side. So Oda does use those things for the narrative of the story. Yeah,
so, I'm gonna have to check. I gotta go peep behind me.
Yeah, so like it's crazy, because then it's like, wait, Davy Back fight, you're supposed to take. The point of it is you take the crew, and if you don't take the crew, then you abolish the crew, the Jolly Roger. So the question is, well, if you took Shanks, you're taking the crew regardless, and that might be the ramifications. A lot of people wonder, what would the stakes be? Well, if Luffy gets into this thing, Shanks might want him and nobody else, and he can't have his friends. And then on top of that, he would lose his Jolly Roger. He could either choose to be on Shanks' crew, or he loses his flag and him and his friends are off on their own and they can't fly as the Straw Hats anymore. Which is awful, but then you think about it on the flip side, yeah, that would mean that Shanks would join, and it doesn't need to be like on the crew, like, you know, like on the ship. It could be like the Grand Fleet type of thing. And then his fleet joins Luffy's fleet, right? Could be something like that as well. I'm just like, yo, Oda's told us for the last 30 volumes he's on the crew. So that was an interesting one. But, you know, I did want to talk a lot about Shanks here. So it's a good thing that we started focusing on him, because I want to know about the One Piece thing. The Shanks, the road poneglyph. I feel like me and a lot of other people were under the assumption that, like, Shanks... Like, I mean, even Fishman, I wasn't here or there for this, but people thought Shanks took that poneglyph, right? And, like, Shanks was basically a step away from Laugh Tale. Like, he was there for every single poneglyph thing, right? Like, and he spoke to Rayleigh afterwards, like, much afterwards as an adult. And it's like, did he know the true history? Does he know the Void Century? Does he have the information? But then in this chapter... it seems like he doesn't have the road poneglyphs. And on top of that, he's never been concerned with them until now. And I'm curious of what you think. Do you think Shanks knows the Void Century, knows the true history, or no?
I don't think he actually knows, because it's a weird thing, right? Because if you base off of young Shanks on the Roger Pirates, you could clearly see he's very Roger-like, very Luffy-like, that he wants to... He said, hey, you know what? We can't go. It's okay. I'm going to form my own crew. I'm going to make it there myself. Yeah. So it's a little weird that all of us, when he gave that hat to Luffy, it almost felt like he gave up on that dream and passed it on to the next generation. I like which that. He said himself, right? So that was always one thing I was thought about. It's like, did something change within him to make him believe that, like, oh, I got to pass this thing on to Luffy? Instead, I think the most likely thing is that he doesn't know right now, but maybe whatever Roger told him after he came back was something to the extent of, like, timeline wise, he couldn't be that guy or something like that, right? Yeah. And then he realized, okay, then I gotta look for that next generation to kind of help my captain out. I'll still be my own captain. I'll do my own thing, have a good time and everything, but I have to try to find that new next generation to push him forward. Maybe initially that was Ace. There's the theory that he was looking for Ace of Fuchsia Village, eventually landed on Luffy instead. I still think right now, like I mentioned earlier, with the whole road poneglyphs and stuff, he's just testing Luffy. I think every step of the way, if you look at Shanks' actions, he's always supported Luffy in some way. Right off the beginning, teaching him the lesson, like, hey, like, this is serious. Like, obviously, I think if he gave it his all, he would not have lost his arm to the Lord of the Coast, right? So, like, everything that he's done has been a lesson. Even when he shows up at Marine Ford, if he shows up a minute later, Luffy dies, quite literally. And even right as he steps up, he says to Kobe, whatever you just did is just, like, completely change like the fate of the world, and it cuts to like a panel of Luffy. Right. So my belief has always been Shanks is supporting Luffy every step of the way. And then when he said recently during Wano, hey, Beck, it's time to go for the One Piece, I think now he's like, oh, Luffy's now reached at the same eye level as us. Let's go all out, be the competition that he needs to be to grow. He needs to surpass us. So we got to give it our all in order for him to really be at the level that he needs to be to become the Pirate King and then fulfill everything. The one thing that I keep going back and forth on is, like, I've always had the idea that the Straw Hats are the only one to make it to Laugh Tale, because that just feels right that they're the only ones besides the Roger Pirates to make it there. But the more I think about it, it's like, how is Law gonna figure out the Willa D and his thing? And, like, the fact that Buggy and Shanks was never able to make it to that island despite being so close. And they said, one day we're going to make it back with our own crews. So I'm starting to change my perspective on that a little bit, and that probably, like, they'll probably make it there as well. But as far as Shanks knowing the truth about everything, I don't think he's this master manipulator, like trying to have the balance of the world, everything. I think he's doing his thing, being a pirate, and one of his main goals is supporting Luffy and making sure he goes on the right path.
Yeah, and yeah. So like, admittingly, in that Godfather Shanks video, I don't know if I explicitly say it, but I think I run under the assumption that, like, yeah, he kind of knows more than most people, which I think is still true even in your explanation, right? Being on the Rogers Pirates crew, interacting with the world at such a young age, being a Yonko at such a young age. I mean, being able to walk into the Gorosei's office, right? Like
clearly he knows some information, his family connections, there's some weird stuff there.
Right. And so, like, all of that stuff could still be true without him knowing the Void Century. And Rayleigh could have imparted some things, you know, dependingly on the conversation they had, right? Like, I would imagine if Robin said yes and Luffy or Usopp, no one stopped him when Luffy did, maybe Rayleigh would have just said it. Like, we don't actually know. Like, I would imagine, like, he probably had that conversation with Shanks, and Shanks was probably like, he heard a bit maybe and was like, stop, it's fine, like, I'll just figure it out on my own, right? Like, we get scenes like that in fiction all the time. Yeah, and so, like, this current situation where, like, he's testing Luffy, I think another aspect of this recent chapter that was interesting, because it almost felt like he was gatekeeping Kid, right? Like, he doesn't need to fight Kid, right? And I asked this question to my stream. I was like, let's remove the poneglyphs from the situation. Kid rolls up to Shanks. Would Kid still fight Shanks, or would he try to avoid him? Is Shanks the instigator or Kid the instigator in that situation? I almost think that Kid wouldn't be the instigator, because when you go back to it, Kid was trying to form an alliance to take down Shanks, right? Like, so he knows that, like, he can't do it. He had to get Hawkins and Apu, even though he hated the idea of it, to take down Shanks. So would it make sense? Like, Kid, yeah, he's dumb, but he's not that dumb where he's like walking up to the entire fleet that he's seeing and he's like, yeah, I'm still gonna take him down. I think if you remove the poneglyphs, Kid wouldn't do it, right? So then it's kind of insinuating that, yeah, Shanks is kind of the instigator. But does he need to kill Kid? Because if it's to test Luffy, then what's wrong? Why gatekeep a rival to Luffy, right? He just came back from Wano telling Aramaki, yo, don't mess with the new buds and the new saplings. They're the new generation, right? Like, that's not something he would do for Blackbeard. That's something he'd do for Law, Kid, and Luffy, right? Maybe he wouldn't do that the same way as Kid, but Kid got the benefit of being with Luffy, but they're in the new generation. And that's seemingly, like you said, that's what Shanks' prerogative is like to protect the new era so that the new era can bring the new era. And Shanks is just like the elevating ceiling for them to constantly chase. And so he'll be the ceiling when it comes. So then I guess it's like, why does he feel gatekeepy right now? You know what I mean? I feel like that's the word, right? I
don't quite see it as gatekeepy. For me, it's like, if he's going to be competitive, then he needs to start getting his hands on some road poneglyphs.
But don't you think, like, especially with the news, he could just get all of them? Like, he knows Big Mom and Kaido are down. He's friendly with Wano. He could go to Big Mom. Like, he could do, like, it doesn't need to be Kid, right? We also see that he was planning on leaving the island anyways, right? Yeah. Like, giving him the ultimatum of, like, give me the poneglyphs and leave. It's like, share your poneglyphs, you know, like the same way Law did, right? You know what I mean? Shanks, he's a pirate, but we also don't know him exactly as a violent person, right? He stopped Marineford War. He tried to get Whitebeard to not have Ace and Blackbeard fight. Like, they're trying to stop things, trying to de-escalate. Even chapter 1 is like, yo, I'm sorry, I drank it out. Like, here, like, this is what I'm not. Like, you listen, we're not trying to fight. Even when he got hit, he's like, yo, my bad. Like, you know what I mean? So it's like, that's what we got introduced with. That's what we keep getting. And then here, it's like, no, poneglyphs or die. And he didn't say die, but like, or fight me, which basically means like, what happens to Kid if he loses another army? He becomes like Optimus Prime at that point. Like, I don't know. So to me, it feels gatekeeping. I get why some people aren't seeing it that way, but like, it's just, it's weird to me that it's like, all of a sudden Kid shows up and he's like, yeah, you were just a convenient thing, and now because of that, you have to fight me. Instead of like, hey, I'll let you pass. I'll let you enter Elbaf if you just give me these, right? Like, that's it. You don't need to even leave. But it's also like he's gatekeeping Elbaf too.
True.
Like what happens to
Could
kid
it-
after like he'll have to go to a different island, I guess, because like, he'll have to sail the other
Could
way.
it have something to do with Kid's reputation, maybe? Because maybe he's still like he cares. Obviously, he cares about Elbath, and like he doesn't want any disruption. Like Kid will. I mean, he
doesn't
didn't really
trust.
do.
Yeah.
Something like that. I know, like the fact that he's literally saying like, "Hey, you got to give it, and then leave afterwards. Not only just give me the phone number, but you got to skedaddle." That seems a little weird, but maybe it is because of Eustace Kid's reputation. I feel like if Law showed up, the conversation could be a little different.
Now, here's another question, and if you watch the Godfather Shanks video, you'll know why I asked this. Do you think that there's a world where Kid and Shanks have prior history? Because when first, like, Shanks was the first Yonko he targeted, right? And and off the rip, and maybe he thought he was the weakest, even though he witnessed Marineford get stopped, put to a halt because of Shanks. Like, he watched him just stop a Kainu, and all the Marines were like, "Hey, all right, we're not." And all warlords didn't do anything. Everyone stopped because of Shanks. That's not exactly if I saw that, it's not exactly the person I'd go afterwards, right? Like, and Big Mom is scary, Kaido is scary, but like, to me, it's like, maybe there's something there. Do you see a world where there is prior history?
The potential is definitely there, because the fact that Kid decided to go after Shanks, that in itself is gonna set that little seed in your mind. It's like, okay, what's the history there? Because both of them are still so mysterious, right? We don't really know like their story completely to an extent. I feel like this chapter, the fact that we didn't get any hints at all, it was just like last time we didn't see him. It felt like the conversation that we're seeing from Killer and Kid feels like they just wanted to attack a Yonko last time and it just didn't work out. I'm not completely shutting it down, but if we got something more than that in this chapter, I would believe it more. I still think the potential is there, but there's nothing quite there for me to be like, oh, something is really spicy there.
I don't know. There might be something there. I don't know. You might get a whiff of the spice in that video. So this I made that video and I knew people were gonna be upset. Like, there's a timestamp I saved, and I premiered it because I knew, like, people were like, yeah, he's cooking, yeah, he's good. And then there was a moment where everyone would be like, all right, what did he just say? And, like, every single time without fail, every time someone reacted, they stopped. They even paused on the timestamp, and I just like sit back and laugh, because whether they roast it or not, I'm like, hey, I knew it. And I even like put a fourth wall breaking moment in the thing, and it's like, oh, it's my favorite thing. I love getting that reaction out of it. This I think, like, more than anything, this is so crazy, this panel, because I don't know if you've heard, some people think that Shanks might die, like Kid might come out, and I'm like,
that's wild.
It's not even like Shanks dying, but like Shanks losing. Like, how can you have film red and then Shanks lose right after that, right? Like, how can we...
Promotion's over, the movie's out of theaters. All right, he can start taking L's now.
Yeah, like, I was like, how do you expect, like we've been building, he came from Wano, didn't even step foot on it, and Admiral was pissing his pants, right? Like, I almost expect Shanks to like...
see, too, he
like,
had his hands up.
Yeah, like, to double down on Kid, right? Kid's like, I'm gonna fight you, and then Shanks zaps him, and then Kid's arm falls off. Like that. Like,
oh my
God. He just can't use his power anymore.
Amputated. Jeez.
Like, I mean, that's what happened to Aramaki, right? He went back into his human form. I wouldn't be surprised if Kid was like shuddering and his arm just stopped being magnetized to him, or whatever the case is with that. Like, man, with this Shanks thing, I almost wonder, because there's like a lot of people already made the parallel. We talked about it. The Blackbeard, Shanks, Law, Kid. Like, I see it. If Kid lives, yeah, Kid's living, Law lives. Law lives, Kid lives. That's how I see it. The question is, now I get more nuance on actually the Law situation. Because I was more on board on Law dying because of, like, maybe the shift goes to Kid, and then Law, like, the story of him that amps it up for Luffy versus Blackbeard, because, you know, Ace was the first brother that was killed, and now Law is technically, like, I regard Law as like a Luffy's brother figure also now too. A lot of the way they react, and this the camaraderie that they've had, Dressrosa fight, everything, they kind of act like that, and so it'd be like that. But I just, for Law's situation, I don't know why Blackbeard wouldn't kill him. I just don't see Blackbeard killing him. Or I don't see Law dying. I just don't know why Blackbeard wouldn't kill him.
But that's the thing about One Piece, right? Like, why is Kiku still alive? Why is Pound still alive? Why is Kinemon still alive? You know, something's gonna happen where they're gonna survive. Exactly. You know, it does it make sense? No, not really. But like, the chance of Law dying off panel, like he's Absalom, is crazy.
Yeah. So with the Shanks side, here's a question that I asked myself way afterwards. I was like, wait a second. Why did Shanks have his fleet showing up to the Elbaf already? What do you think?
Yeah,
because that's a weird move.
That's one. I think that's my biggest question, because the connection's always been there, right?
Yeah.
Of Shanks to Elbaf, because the ship is like a Viking style. Like, now my number one question is like, what is the connection? Is he just got friends here? Is he actually like an alliance with the whole nation?
Yeah, and like in the SBS, in Shanks's SBS, we found out recently that he has a grand fleet, but it's like Luffy's, where he's not like it's not like Kaido or Big Mom, where he's just giving direct
it's like
orders.
Whitebeard's bunch of allies that pulled up, essentially, right?
So why now order them all to Elbaf if he didn't even have the road poneglyphs in the first place, right? Like, apparently not, right?
True. Yeah, I don't know. It's odd timing that like, does he just know that everything's starting to come to this direction because of how close it was from Wano? That could be an option, because we know Blackbeard went the other way and found Law. Yeah. I still wonder though, like the Blackbeard thing is still interesting to me, because the fact that he had that conversation with Law, and he was like, you could have went in one in three directions. I didn't know which one you were gone. And the fact that there was only like 3 or 4 of them over there, logically, I was like, he split up the crew then, no? Like, couple more over there, a couple more there. That means some of them are probably in Elbaf. That's why I was like, are some of them coming to Egghead, right? Like, could that be involved? So like, maybe Shanks has like that similar mindset, because he's already by Wano. He's like, okay, things are obviously taken to the next level now after Big Mom and Kaido just went down. Elbaf's right here. I'm gonna gather up the forces. I'm starting to go after the One Piece. Like, you know, I gotta take things seriously. I think this is just him going all out, like, gathering up all his forces together.
But against
when he sees a road poneglyph.
Because if he didn't have the road, like, if he didn't have the road poneglyph yet, what direction would he go in, right? Like, and the thing is also, after Wano, apparently he went to Barto and then Elbaf again. So that's like also like he detoured, came back, and then he calls his fleet over. Right? It's like, it's so weird. And
that's the other thing. Maybe Elbaf is like a base of operations for him to a degree. I don't think it's like to the degree where he's like literally like Elbaf is his territory. That's like crazy. I feel like that people would talk about that more if that was actually the case. But like, maybe I can see a case where like him valuing, like Elbaf valuing strength and pride. Like, he could earn the respect of a lot of people on that island, and he could have a base of operations there, and the allies were already there, or maybe they were already based there. Either that, or like, you know, like he just knows that, hey, we're gonna gather up in Elbaf. We're gonna, whoever comes to this direction, we're gonna take the road poneglyph, and then, you know, things are gonna start to fire up.
Yeah,
but I don't know, man.
Setting up for Davy backfight with Luffy on Elbaf, that makes a lot of sense. So I just want to hit you with a line of logic that I had, because like, anytime we've seen a Yonko, especially, gather up their forces, Whitebeard did it to wage a war against the world government, right? And right now, Whitebeard's gone. There's no force there, right? Kaido just got taken down, so there's no Yonko on that front. The Big Mom, it's in the newspapers. She got defeated a long time ago, apparently, by Luffy in the newspapers, and then actually died. I don't know if that was like confirmed in the newspapers, but that's like the assumption. I'm guessing that they died. They told that to Pudding, like in the newspapers, that Big Mom died, right? So Big Mom's gone, so there's no war to wage there. It's not like he's gonna go against Buggy, right? And then that kind of like, if it's not Luffy and he's waiting there and he's bringing all his people there, would he bring his fleet for Luffy? Or
it feels a little excessive,
right? And he just came back from the Gorosei, right? He just came back from. It's not like he's gonna wage war against the world government. That seemed like what he wanted to stall against, right? So does it make sense, process of elimination, that he was gonna pull up on Blackbeard with this fleet? It was finally time. Shanks was like, you know what? It's time to take this guy down now. And it might be like you were saying, like, hey, if like I'm not gonna stop Blackbeard from being a pirate and you know the pirates going out and if Blackbeard runs into them, I'm not gonna stop that. But like knowing that one of them are gonna go there, the road punks are at the end of this. Regardless, instead of taking it from the new gen, let's take it from Blackbeard. Let's prevent Blackbeard from doing that, which seems like he wasn't planning on Kid coming here, right? He was going to leave. It's not like he was waiting for someone like Blackbeard was. He was going to leave to somewhere. And the only entity that I can think, because he's on Elbaf, it's not like he's waging war against the Giants, which, you know, I think Shanks might be able to solo, considering Baby Big Mom soloed a village. But so then all that's really left, unless there's a new person, is Blackbeard, right? Like, and Blackbeard does have a fleet, I think, technically, but does that make sense to you that Shanks wanted to go roll up on Blackbeard?
Either way, it's got to be heading that way, right? Because we would assume Elbaf is probably next. Yeah. Right? Is the next arc. Who's the villain in that arc? Like, Loki? That's not gonna, like, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And like, the idea, like, Elbaf, I feel like a lot of people, as time went on, they were like, probably not gonna be a insanely long arc because Wano's been going on for so long, but like, it is an arc that's been set up since like the second island on the Grand Line. The Viking theme is huge. It's like one of the biggest inspirations for Oda writing a pirate story. And for looking at Norse mythology, would Oda pass up the opportunity to do something like Ragnarok in Elbaf and just have this absolutely insane war where maybe Loki is siding with Blackbeard to some degree and there's this internal conflict going on and you have essentially 3 Yonko crews going head to head, Kid trying to figure his way out in there somehow. It could be that just grand scale, and we're seeing the allies already all coming together in one place here. Or it could be a twist. Maybe Shanks leaves, and then like Elbaf is like a shorter arc. But I gotta imagine he's gotta be there, like, because Usopp's gonna have a huge arc in Elbaf, and I feel like Yasopp has to be involved in that.
Yeah, it's hard because right now, in the context of what you're saying, right, Shanks leaves and Kid remains on the island, disheveled, whatever it be, right?
Yeah.
Even with that context, that doesn't fit what we just talked about because then by the time Luffy shows up, Shanks comes back and then Kid's still there. He's like beating him around or something, right? So like the way I could kind of see what happens, which again contradicts what we just talked about, is Kid gets destroyed and Shanks inflicts some kind of crazy torture on him. Not torture, but like punishment, so to say. And the thing is, Barto is also maybe there too. Maybe Kid and Barto are in the same kind of like situation by the end of, you know, with Shanks thing. Shanks leaves. Elbaf is Elbaf. He has the Giants enforce the situation on Barto and Kid. Now, the thing is, when Luffy comes to Elbaf, in order to get Barto, because he probably would, they're friends, right? And then he also hears about Kid, and they're, you know, they're not best friends, but they're homies, right? They raided Onigashima together. When you do that kind of thing with a homie, right? Like, I mean, we went to New York City together for Comic-Con. We're more homies than not, right? And and so, like, in that line of context, that creates a situation where one, Luffy has to now fight the Giants to free the people, even though he might not need to or want to. That could create a situation where the new giant pirates that Luffy has fights with the giant pirates that Shanks has. And then all of this is now able to flesh out Shanks in a new light because we get the context from the Giants who Shanks is. We get the context from Barto and Kid, what Shanks is to them. And now Luffy gets a new perspective on Shanks. And you know, like Film Red, we've talked immensely about, but that was something that, like, Uta, being Shanks's kid, was telling Luffy about all of these things, and Luffy would not have it. He was like, no, that's not Shanks, right? Like, you misunderstood it. And then by the end of the story, it fizzles out into like a pseudo misunderstanding, I just want to fuck shit up, like that kind of thing. And versus here, it wouldn't necessarily be like that. It would be like, no, like this is my truth of how I see Shanks from Barto. Barto's just like, yo, man, this guy just rolled up and just slaughtered everybody. Like, I couldn't stop him. Like, and he wouldn't have it. And he told me that he's going to kill you too. And so Barto couldn't stand down. And then in order to have a bartering trip, Barto bartering. No, in order to have that, you know, Shanks imprisoned him for whatever Luffy thing. I could see that happening, but again, it's weird because you'd almost think that Shanks would have to be there while we're on Elbaf to learn about Yasopp, Shanks, and all of these things. So
yeah,
it's so odd. It's so odd. That's for sure. Dang. Like I'm glad he's shined a light on a lot of these things, because that's honestly from this chapter, right? Having like a theory like the Godfather Shanks thing, right? When you make a video, people assume you're biased towards things, but the thing is, I like to show people I'm not biased by contradicting my theory in the next theory, or making them connect, or you know, opening up the discussion. But Godfather Shanks, I saw my own bias in this thing, in that context. Like, I would assume that you already had the positive, so I needed to get your sound take on that. And now I feel like, like this is the correct. This is not the correct, but like a sound vision of what's happening. And I want to throw in two more things before we end, because I want to tie it back, like I always do, to the beginning of the conversation. And the thing is, right, we're this far into the story, or post Reverie, right? Chapter 907 was when Shanks rolls up to the Gorosei, right? And he says, there's a pirate I want to tell you about. And at this point at the story, we eliminated Kaido, we eliminated Big Mom, Whitebeard's not here, Blackbeard is there. Is he talking about Blackbeard again? Is it Luffy? Is he ratting out his own child, essentially? If Buggy is his homie, is it, for some reason he's like, hey, yo, he was a Roger pirate. It's like, wait, they already knew that? Like, I don't know. So like, who was the pirate? Or do you feel like that's something like, is that something we're gonna know soon? How does that fit in here, the Gorosei, Shanks, and the pirate, and this situation right now?
Man, yeah, that one's always been a tough one to figure out, because I still don't think we have enough information. Whenever people ask me that question, I still think it comes down to two. Either he's talking about Blackbeard, and the movements he's making again, or he's referring to Luffy and saying, don't mess with him. So going in that direction, because I genuinely think, like, it's like hidden in disguise almost, that like every action he takes is for Luffy. Like, him trying to stop Ace is because partially he knows if Ace gets captured, Luffy's gonna go. Right? Him stopping Kaido. If Kaido shows up, Luffy's dying at Marineford.
Everybody's dying, bro.
And then he shows up at Marineford to literally save Luffy's life. What does he do at the end of Wano? Shows up at the end of Wano, says, don't mess with Luffy. So like everything, it just seems like he is guiding him as much as possible. So if he's referring to Luffy in that conversation, I think it's like him saying, hey, I'm standing behind somebody now. You know, don't try to end his journey too early. That kind of, because obviously you guys have his eyes on him already from everything he's done.
Okay, so you're seeing it like a protective measure almost.
Yeah,
like,
protective. Either that or against Blackbeard.
So I guess like, that question, the Blackbeard one, I'm gonna pose an alternative, but I like the protective aspect is one that is hard to convince people of, in my opinion, right? Because then the question becomes, why would they listen to him? What would the context be necessary to convince the Gorosei to not go after Luffy, but then also for them to counter that, because in Wano they gave the order to assassinate him, right? So then they're going against what he said. So then it's like the concept there is like the protective order. I can see that, but what would he need to tell them about it, right? And a lot of people took it a different angle, that Shanks is evil and Shanks wanted Luffy, like told them about the fruit because he's the one who stole it. But that doesn't make sense either, because he came and saved him, right? Like, why would none of that makes sense either? So like, and like the Blackbeard one, I feel like is not beating a dead horse, but it's also like like how many people can Shanks warn about Blackbeard?
Exactly.
They made him a warlord, right? Like
he's a Yonko now. They know. But like, the thing is, like, outside of those two options, I just don't see who it could be. So like that's why it's just like, It's gotta be one of those.
So you said something earlier, right? Shanks wants to be a competitor for the One Piece Laugh Tale, and the thing about it is you need the road poneglyphs. Researching the poneglyphs apparently is a death sentence in the Gorosei's eyes, which is, you know, gives an insight that maybe he wasn't actually looking at the poneglyphs prior, because then the Gorosei might have known somehow and wouldn't be friendly with the Shanks, whatever, right? Point being that if Shanks wants to be a competitor and he knew of someone else who had the knowledge, the research of poneglyphs and insight, would he go that route and alert them of that person? And that is the curious thing, because we just found out of someone who actually, back in their prime or in their heyday, they were a pirate. We didn't really understand it in that way, but it was a pirate crew, and they just told us in 1076, it's impossible that the word of our research of poneglyphs could leave.
You think he snitched on Vega Punk?
Vega Punk, it used to be a pirate, and the research on O'Hara, connection from Saul, is on Elbaf.
Oh, that's a...
And so we don't know why he's doing this with Kid. We don't know why he would do that on Vegapunk, but maybe it's because Vegapunk is a competitor, would be a competitor, and so why didn't he do this prior? Well, why didn't Shanks do a lot of things beforehand, right? Like, he had a lot of chances to do a lot of things, like becoming a Yonko, apparently. Like, he waited until after Luffy a few years later, right? And so my question is, do you see a world where Vegapunk was the pirate that he told the Gorosei, hey, he's researching poneglyphs, you need to go, and that's how the Gorosei sent CP0 to Vegapunk to investigate? Because then it's also like they investigated. They didn't send CP0 immediately, right? Like, so whatever knowledge that they got, imagine if a Vegapunk, right? Like, you know what Vegapunk is. Vegapunk's satellite is telling Saint Saturn, right? In the previous theory that Atlas told Saint Saturn, right? Hypothetically. Why would I doubt Vegapunk to snitch on Vegapunk? Like, I would just send CP0 immediately. I wouldn't send CP5, 7, and 8. But if like not a not trusted source, but a source I'd have to investigate told me that Vegapunk was researching it, then I would send CP5, 7, and 8. But if a Vegapunk himself was telling me, yo, Vegapunk is researching, I wouldn't doubt it. I would just go instant snuff him, right? Like, so then I'm like, yo, maybe Shanks snitched on Vegapunk in the same reason why he doesn't want Kid to have the poneglyphs. He doesn't want Vegapunk to have the poneglyphs. It's just another blockade, and he doesn't want to have to even deal with them. And that would
feels
kind of
very tunnel vision, though, don't you think? That he's just like, nobody else besides me or Luffy, I guess, to do that. Also, it'd be like him calling Vegapunk a pirate when it's been like 20 years plus. Yeah, he's working for the world government. I know it'd be a way for Oda to kind of like throw us off the scent. But it would be something we look at as like, why did he call Vegapunk a pirate? Like,
yeah. No, I definitely see. The thing is, it's like the way I see Mads now, especially, is like they were a bona fide pirate crew. Like, we saw Vegapunk like actually with a gun and stuff, right? So like, it's interesting because the world government might not have known what Mads was doing because they were just known for the cloning stuff, right? Like, that's when Mads was taken. They didn't necessarily know of Vegapunk's connection to Dragon and Saul and O'Hara. But that's something Shanks would know, right? And that's why in the conversation with you, I wanted to really understand the Shanks's angle here with Kid. If it's not gatekeepy, but it's like, hey, like, I want to be a real competitor, and Luffy is the person. I want to get, like, Kid isn't a person, right? And Vegapunk is a threat, like an actual threat. If Shanks just doesn't want to deal with Vegapunk, right? Like, honestly, if I had not the foresight, but the knowledge of the world, right? The whole world knows how powerful Vegapunk is to a certain extent, but Shanks should know especially. Hey, if I could avoid him, right? And if I could use the Gorosei as a weapon for that, a tool for that, hey, that might be where that goes, because like we just mentioned, it's either like Luffy or Blackbeard, but like Blackbeard doesn't make sense, and then Luffy, and then but outside of that, who is it? And it's like,
yeah, there's no real other answer.
And so then when you talk about the Gorosei, right, like in regards to why he would refer to him as a pirate, it's like, well, this stemmed. The Gorosei might not know the ulterior motive of Vega Punk as a pirate, which when we saw him talk to Dragon, that is what we don't know of yet, right? Dragon and Vega Punk seem to have a prior connection stemming probably from Mads. And when Mads was a pirate crew, essentially, what were they fighting for? What were they doing, right? Like all of that stuff. And so if Shanks was like, hey, I got a pirate to tell you about. Did you know that the Mads pirates were doing poneglyph research, which is how they knew about Lunarians, how they knew about devil fruits, how they knew about this kind of thing. So, and then the Gorosei is like, oh, we got to go take him out. Let's go investigate that, right? So they send CP5. CP5 gets taken. CP7 gets taken. CP8 gets taken, right? And then by that time, it's like, all right, let's just send CP0 at this point. Because then it's kind of weird. You would imagine like, hey, like, why wasn't this done more abruptly? Or why was this done so slowly? Maybe they couldn't trust the source. Maybe that's why it's Shanks, right? It's so weird. And then that would explain why Vegapunk didn't know. And then why I said, like, we could probably take away that aspect of it, leaking the word, and then take that out and then focus back on Egghead for what's actually going on. Maybe it's not that convoluted, but that one piece of information makes it a lot more convoluted, right? Because remember at the very beginning of the conversation, when I said I don't suspect the satellites, that was one of the points where you're like, well, if the information was coming from Egghead, then it would have to be a satellite, right? Well, if we eliminate that part, that kind of narrows it, opens it back up to some other possibilities again, right?
That's a good point.
So,
but in this scenario, like, what is your vision of who Shanks is supposed to be then? Because, like, I just see if he makes that decision, it now becomes like, oh, Shanks is kind of like just very straightforward. Like, you know, once he has a goal, he just thinks about that. Like, anything that's a bit of an issue, he just tries to eliminate. And I just don't feel like he's given off that energy, really, in any of the other actions. It feels like he's a lot more thoughtful than that, at least.
So like, it's interesting, right? Because I equate him going to Whitebeard to warning him about Blackbeard similarly to the Gorosei thing in some context, right? Like, obviously you can look at that situation in a lot of different ways, but it's like a preemptive warning, right? I'm warning you about a pirate. I'm warning you about Blackbeard, right? It's like, if you don't do this, XYZ will happen. He didn't tell Whitebeard about XYZ, but he's like, yo, Ace will die. And he didn't, like, imagine if Shanks was like, yo, not only will Ace die, but you will die, and, like, your crew will die, too. Yeah. Like, Shanks didn't say that, but, like, that's where, like, the master manipulator part comes in. Did he want Whitebeard to do all that and go through it and then die to eliminate a chess piece? Why didn't he just tell him? Why didn't he just heavy-handedly tell Whitebeard this? Why didn't Shanks just go after Blackbeard? Could he actually not take out Blackbeard at that point before he even got the Gura Gura? Like, there's so many questions, and then you gotta ask yourself, why wouldn't he just, whatever pirate he was telling them about, if it was protective, that eliminates this. But if it was a warning, why at this point doesn't Shanks just do it on his own, right? Is he bringing that fleet around to do that on his own? And if he's bringing the fleet for Blackbeard, then why did he warn the Gorosei about Blackbeard, right? That also tells you that maybe whoever he was going afterwards is not the person that he told the Gorosei about. You know what I mean? And if you think about Vegapunk, that's why I also introduced the thing to the Braga thing. Is Vegapunk a Yonko threat? Because he kind of is. He's honestly a wild card, right?
He is.
He's a wild card in terms of it being straightforward, right? Maybe it's more so like the events that would transpire from taking out Vegapunk or setting this course of action is preventing a worse off scenario, or is the keg and the explosive like the Summit War, right? I think what we have to look at is what would have happened if this is the case that Vegapunk is the pirate that Shanks is talking about, right? Then it's what would have happened, and this is why I wanted you, because then you can make a what if, right? What would have happened if Shanks didn't tell them about Vegapunk? What could Vegapunk possibly have done? And then on the flip side, if Shanks did tell them about Vegapunk, then what does the set of actions that transpired afterwards cause after Egghead? And is that what Shanks wanted, or is that what Shanks wanted to prevent? And that is ultimately, I want to plant that seed, because I think that's an interesting one. And I don't know if we're going to, that's what I was also asking. Do you think we're going to get that information soon, now that St. J. Garcia's Saturn, we're going to use his full government name right now, but like, is he going to tell us, like, are we going to find out more about the Gorosei? It's just, now that Shanks is in the story, is it now that we're going to get like that loop around from chapter 907? There's so many things about that.
I feel like that won't get to, unless this Vegapunk thing is true. If that is true, I think at the very least we have to get a hint of some sort. Yeah. Because we're gonna, by the end of this arc, we will know who the traitor is, presumably, or have a very good idea.
It might be we solve 95% of the mystery, and then we're like, after the fact, it's like, wait a moment. Like, sometimes in Scooby-Doo, where they're like, that was the guy, but then they're like, wait, what was that about? And then they
take his mask off.
Yeah, something like that. Like, like, oh man, this is so crazy. There's so
exciting times.
Yeah,
exciting
so
times
many plot points to play with. Like, in this span of this conversation, we jumped all the way back to like every single plot point that Shanks has been involved with, which makes sense that Shanks is here and inspired that thought. But then it makes you question so many things, so many things.
Because the guy shows up once every 200 chapters in this monumental moment. Yeah. And it's just like a huge thing that he's involved, which is why I think it's crazy to see him in this chapter already so soon. Which is like, it just kind of puts you in perspective. Oh, like, we're actually going to get to this guy soon. Yeah. That's pretty wild.
Do you think, we're going to close off the call. So like, but actually before I ask the last question, before people click off the video, thank you for coming on to the call.
Absolutely. Anytime, bro.
The viewers definitely know why at this point, why I brought you on, because I don't like being in a bubble. I love it when someone dismantles everything I've said, especially a video. That's why someone like you reacting to a video, just giving me like a base take, I'm like, yes, that is exactly what I need, because you need that to be convincing, right? That's how you make a video like Rocks is Stronger uncounterable, right? So again, I appreciate, one, you being here, your presence, but your brain, thank you for being in the community. 3, of course, bro. Entertaining the wildness that is me spitting out random things, because I knew
it's a good time, man. You do a great job of backing it up, man. It's a good back and forth that we have.
And so I love that you were here for it, and you entertained all that. So before all that, let everybody know who you are, where you are, what you're doing, if there's anything new or whatever you're trying to put out,
Yep, my channel is IMDKing. You guys can check me out there. I stream chapter reactions when they drop discussion topics, YouTube shorts time to time. Next video is actually gonna be about Shanks and potentially devil fruits, so that should be coming out probably next week or so. So yeah, that be on the lookout for that.
If you end up making that, or if it's already made, whatever, that's fine too, but if prior to that, before finalizing it, if you end up getting the time to do a Shanks reaction one, let me know, because my viewers would eat that alive. Like, they don't even care if I'm in it. They're just gonna be like, yo, let's see it. The amount of times I got links to even Twitch streamers who are reacting to it, I was like, wait, what? people on Twitch do One Piece like this? Like, that's crazy. So let me know, and I'm excited, and hopefully we can get you back in this space or on a stream, wherever it be, because people loved you last stream too, in a future chapter. So maybe there's going to be a chapter, hopefully, as much as people don't like being blue-balled, I'm enjoying the current times, the mystery, the excitingness. If it stalls out a little bit, I'm a-okay. So like, maybe we come back towards the end of Egghead and we recollect our thoughts, because we had a lot of them. And so can't thank you enough. And anybody who's coming from your community, appreciate you being here. So the last thing I want to ask you is, this is super surface level, but do you actually see like Shanks pulling out the stops at this part against Kid, and like, you know, like you saw Film Red, like we barely got to see, it was like maybe 10 seconds of it, and it's like we were drooling at it. Is that what we're getting? Are we getting like what Blackbeard showed us, where Blackbeard was actually like Gura breaking the world, tilting the island kind of thing, and stopping, absorbing Law's attacks? Like, is that what we're getting for Shanks, or are we getting Film Red Shanks? Which one?
See, I was surprised we even got as much as we did with Blackbeard versus Law, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like, especially with this, like, it's Shanks. He is like the #1 tease of all time. And the fact that we're going into break after this, it just feels like next chapter, the start of the chapter is going to be like Sanji walking with Stussy or something like that. So it just feels like floor 2, Sanji and Stussy finds like a clue finally or something.
That's so brutal. Oh no. You're not wrong. Like, I feel like it's gonna be split chapters like Blackbeard and Law. I'm just like, but like you said, it's Shanks, and like, well, look what happened to Film Red. Like, we got like, this is Shanks's movie. We get a lot of Shanks, but not the side of Shanks that we wanted to see necessarily. And like, I feel like we're expecting to get a lot of people were expecting, like, you know, once they grasped the parallel between Blackbeard and Shanks and Law and Kid right now, they were like, oh, Kid is gonna hurt Shanks. Kid is gonna clash with Shanks like Law did with Blackbeard. I'm like, no, I don't know. I don't see that.
No. It's like one of those things it's Kid and Shanks. It's like the two people that we never get stuff from. Like,
yo, we can only hope. And so
if we get it, I'll be happy. That's why I said, people are like, are we going to get it next time? Listen, I'm not going to expect it, but if we get it, I'll be ecstatic.
Yeah. All right. So you guys heard it here. Thank you, Zach, IMDKing, for blessing us with your thoughts. We're praying to see some Shanks. So I think we're in the same boat as a lot of you guys. Personally, we're probably not gonna get it, but hey, we're welcome to be surprised. So as much as we're hoping to see Shanks show out, also hoping to see you guys next, you know, in the comment section, next lives on my channel, on Zach's channel, wherever it is. Thank you guys for tuning in. Talk to you guys very, very soon. Peace out.